Welcome to the Run It Back podcast, where we run back everything from the 80s and 90s. I'm Jason.
I'm Sarah.
And today we're running back Jurassic Park from 1993. This is your movie. You picked it. Why?
I think after, 41 episodes, I'm finally able to pick a favorite movie, and I think it's Jurassic Park. I'm full on willing to hurt Twister's feelings and pick Jurassic Park as my favorite movie.
I'm still going with its Twister.
It's not
Twister. On TV every time I come in.
So is Jurassic Park, especially during COVID. It has been on every channel, all three of them, like Sci-Fi, TNT, TBS, the Sundance Channel, some other, like 5 or 6 channels, at least twice a week, all three of them. Now, it's kind of funny, or ironic, or whatever, that it is my favorite movie because my mom took me to see it in the theater. It's usually my dad. Mom took me to see this in the theater. The iconic scene where you first see the T-Rex, where it is just fucking up the car, trying to get the kids. I screamed out loud in the theater and ran out. Like, Mom had to run out after me. And we had to leave and go home. Now, I time-stamped it. That's an hour and 8 minutes into the movie. So, an hour and 8 minutes in, I was out.
You're like halfway in at that point.
Yeah. Now, a little embarrassing, but this came out in like June or July of 93, which means I would have been 8 years old.
Are you sure you'd only been 8?
Yeah, I would have turned 9 in October. Yeah. So that's a little extra embarrassing that the T-Rex scared me so bad. God, thank God I didn't make it to the raptors in the kitchen and shit. I would have died. I would have never been okay. But my mom, still to this day, has never seen past that part.
How? It's on TV all the time.
She doesn't watch it. I don't know. She's never seen past that part.
Wow.
Yeah, she's still salty.
Speaking of velociraptors, the opening scene in the movie is basically kind of a flashback to earlier when they're setting up this island, and you have the game warden Muldoon is leading his crew, and they're loading this caged velociraptor into the park in the worst way imaginable. Like, they have all this technology, and you could tell that the cage is set up to be a certain way. They load it onto this platform. It looks like the platform should have some kind of locking mechanism and roll it to the gate. They have to push it to the gate. Then they have a guy lift up this gate. If you have one guy that can lift up a gate, dinosaurs will fuck this gate up. Fuck that gate. They don't give a shit about that gate.
But they definitely don't lock the cage into the paddock
they don't
correctly.
Lock the cage into the thing, because the cage should now become the locked door before that gate goes up.
Right.
And they do this all wrong. This velociraptor eats Jose over here, and Muldoon's holding on to him, just yelling at him to shoot her.
Shoot her! Shoot her!
And you later learn that they had 8 raptors total, so her and 7 other ones. She fucking takes over. It's like, I run this shit. If you don't like it, you can get the fuck out. She killed all but 2 of them.
Right.
So now she has her pack of 2. Well, 3 total. And Muldoon's not worried. I mean, he's worried about the T-Rex.
They clearly...
But he only cares, like, as long as the raptors are locked up,
right,
we're good.
They clearly did not shoot her when he was screaming shoot her. Like, there's 5 or 6 of them surrounding her cage, like, hitting her with like stun guns, hitting her with all kinds of stuff, but he's screaming shoot her, and they clearly never do.
Well, that whole enclosure, I guess this is just one part of it, where you get to see them feed it. For the longest time, I thought they were actually feeding the Rex.
No.
Like, years ago. Like, it took me a few times watching this movie to figure out they were feeding the velociraptors, and I don't know why I was thinking the Rex, because you see the top of the thing, it's all gated off.
I guess because you expect T-Rex to be like the big scary thing of the movie, but it's actually the velociraptors, just like in the new Jurassic Worlds. It's it's always the velociraptors. Even in the new, like the first Jurassic World movie, they were totally fine that they Frankenstein pieced this dinosaur together until old Chris Pratt was like, you put fucking velociraptor in it, we're all gonna die.
Well, that is a cornerstone of the fallacies of every one of these movies, is they find a new fucking way to fuck the DNA. Like this one, it's the frog DNA, and that one they had the cuttlefish. The cuttlefish DNA that fucked them because
camouflage.
Fucking camouflages itself. When we were watching that movie and they said fucking cuttlefish DNA, I raised my hands and like slap my knees because you guys are fucked. You're dead.
We watched it in the theater too, folks. He had that reaction in the theater. People were like, this motherfucker a cuttlefish expert? I need more explanation. Because they're like, oh, cuttlefish DNA. And he's just like, well, goddamn it then.
You have what they assume in the movie is this smart-ass pack predator combined with a T-Rex. Combined with an Allosaurus, and then they're like, "Oh, there's a fucking cuttlefish DNA," and they're like, cuttlefish like trick other fish into thinking they're crabs so they can attack that fish.
Right?
Like they were fucked. So while we're on Velociraptor still, they kind of
Velociraptors are actually small.
There were a lot smaller. Like since this movie's came out, there's larger versions of different types of dinosaurs that they call raptors.
Now, to be fair to Spielberg, Michael Crichton had it in his book that these were raptors, that they were 6 foot tall and they were velociraptors. But they weren't. They were some kind of other raptor. I don't have the word on me right now. But they said that since this has come out, they have actually found bigger versions of that. So it's kind of okay.
What'd you say, the Utah raptor?
A Utah raptor.
Was like 6 to 8 feet tall?
Yeah, so that's more like what it is. But they've also found like giant ones, so giant like what a velociraptor actually was. Yeah. So,
but they basically explain how these things hunt is the same thing that wolves do. Wolves will go out and say there's 7 wolves, 3 will go left, 3 will go right, and 1 will just go down the middle and basically slowly push whatever they're trying to kill into a pocket. Once they get to the pocket, they isolate like a reindeer or elk or whatever they're killing.
Not a reindeer. How will Santa get here?
The other ones.
Oh, no.
That's why there's so many.
Oh.
So you can afford to lose them.
Oh. You just could have said magic.
So he's like, you're paying attention to that one, but it's not that one that kills you. It's the 2 that come in from the side. So it's basically, he describes they are pack hunters. Who knows if this was true or not? They can only assume. They definitely assume by their teeth and their claws that they're definitely carnivores because most plant-eating animals have like the molar, flat, grindy teeth.
Do you know that T-Rexes do not have the teeth that were shaped like they are in this movie, that they were more of a banana shape? They curved.
I can see that.
But Spielberg really wanted like these perfect, scary-ass teeth. He didn't want the point to like curve.
Because when they curve in, they kind of bring food in and rip away from whatever. But if you curve too much, you can't see.
Yeah,
until they open
not
their
a
mouth
good
real
visual.
wide.
So after you see them loading the raptors into the paddock, you go to the amber mine in the Dominican Republic. You first see a lawyer there for the insurance company. He's talking to the amber miner about how he needs these experts to sign off on the park, or the insurance company isn't going to let them open.
He also represents the investors too.
Right.
So they want the insurance. Well, I think the investors hired the insurance company to make sure they don't lose money, but they want a guarantee from, like you said,
2 experts. So he got Dr. N. Malcolm, who is a mathematician that specializes in chaos theory, and they want Alan Grant, who is a paleontologist. The guy who is mining the amber, whose name I did not catch, said that there's no way in hell he gets him. He's going to be hard to get because he's a digger. He's not going to leave his site.
Yeah.
So you also see, like, they have a perfect chunk of amber with a mosquito preserved in it, which is very central to the movie.
Yeah. Well, I imagine they're excited about that mosquito because they know Hammond's going to pay
a lot
out the ass for it, and they're going to get a bonus or whatever, because that's basically how he's getting his chunks of DNA.
So after that, you go to the Badlands of Montana, where you meet Dr. Alan Grant and Dr. Ellie Sadler. They're digging up. Is it a raptor that they have there? Yeah, it is, because that's where he gets the raptor claw that he carries around.
I don't know if the one they're digging up is raptor, but
the
one they use the radar.
He picks up that claw.
I thought he had the claw. Right?
No, in the beginning there he picked it up and paintbrushed it off. But they also have a new radar system they're testing out where they shoot the radar into the ground and then it comes up on the computer so they can see what they're digging for.
Yeah, at this point there's a kid says, It looks like a small turkey. It is a pussy.
A big turkey.
And old Dr. Grant gives him the respect speech because it'll cut you up and eat you while you're still alive.
Yeah, he plumb terrifies him. He takes the raptor claw he found, and it was like it will slice you here and it'll slice you there, and then you're still alive when it starts to eat you, and it's about respect. And now, there is a theory when Jurassic World came out that Chris Pratt was this kid because he trains the raptors. He says his relationship with the raptors is based on respect, and that's how it has to be. So they think that this kid grew up to be Chris Pratt and train the raptors and have the respect. Now, the person who played this kid tweeted and was like, it's my role, he can't have it, he's not me, fuck y'all. But I don't know that he gets a say in it.
No, I mean, that checks out, because if he was so impressioned by that respect speech...
Yeah.
And he is now, like, that's a fucking wild-ass job. What you do? I'm going to go train some velociraptors? Like, excuse me?
Well, I mean, he's clearly interested in it anyway, because he's just, in this movie, he's just credited as volunteer kid. So he's volunteering on this dig anyway. And I don't know if his parents are anywhere to be found, because they would not let this man terrify their child like that, right?
I would if my kid was being a little disrespectful.
You are right. It is 1993, so parents had a more of a community parenting situation. Like, if my kid's being a dick, you go ahead and smack him in the back of the head for me.
I don't even think it was so much that as, like, kid needs to learn.
So Alan and Ellie are walking up the hill after his encounter with this kid, and was like, they're a couple. Alan's like, you really want one of those? And she's like, not that one, but yeah, like a breed of that, yeah.
Well, I was like, I thought it was funny. She's like, geez, if you wanted to scare him, you could have just pulled out a gun or pulled a gun on him.
Yeah. But he says kids are noisy, messy, expensive, and smell bad.
Those are all
solid
true
points.
Things, but they can be highly entertaining. But it's much better to rent a kid than it is to
rent
own
a kid.
one. Yeah.
God.
You just lease it for the weekend, and when it starts being a little dick, you're like, yeah, you need to go back to your parents.
In this age, I don't know if renting a kid sounds great.
Yeah, that's probably not the right word. But if you have nieces and nephews,
there you go.
You know, they come stay with you. You send them the fuck back home,
right?
And you get most of the good parts. Like, they're, for the most part, if a kid is not bored, they usually don't get in trouble. They get bored and then they start doing shit they shouldn't do. Like, as long as they're engaged in something, they're fine, and they're usually a little more engaged in a
different location
or different setting than what they're used to, so they're more attentive to everything. So you get the better side. But when they're at home and they've been sitting there for hours and hours and hours and they're bored with their toys and they start throwing shit.
Yeah. Oh, also in his speech where he's talking to the kid, he says, creatures from the Cretaceous period, which is important because a lot of fuckholes in the reviews are going to be like, oh, it's Jurassic Park, but the large numbers from them are the Cretaceous period. Like, chill the fuck out. That's what old boy named his book. Calm down. It can't, it's science fiction. They brought dinosaurs back to life and you're butthurt about the fucking name? Jesus fucking Christ. Calm down.
But a lot of people like that just assume that, hey, all these fuckers stopped living here and new ones started. That's not how it happens. Like, it just gradually
But I just wanted to point it out that he did say Cretaceous period to calm you all down.
I didn't even
But if this movie was called Cretaceous Park, people would be like, the fucking what? Jurassic, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, a helicopter lands at the dig site. It's blowing sand all over their bones they're digging up. They're freaking out, trying to get it covered up.
Oh, I had an issue with the whole bone thing. It just looked too easy to get the bones out. It was too, they put it in wet sand and let it dry a little bit. And
I think all of the heavy chiseling had already been done, and they were in the, paintbrush
but
phase.
If it's in sediment, a lot of it's going to be locked up in there. You're going to have to
But I think they'd already done all of that.
But it was
this was just the...
You're just seeing the surface. If they had already done all the chiseling, you'd see, a lot of... They'd have wooden posts holding up the bones that they hadn't taken out above so they can get to the ones below. You're just seeing the face of it.
And you know this based on your time as an archaeologist?
Many documentaries.
Of digging up dinosaur bones?
Dinosaur bones, tombs, pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient ruins.
Mm-hmm.
It just looked too easy.
Well, it's a movie.
Yeah.
I love when people find fault with things. Like, there's dinosaurs, and you're like, oh, they dug up those bones wrong. Like, well, goddamn. You don't have a problem with the fact that there's fucking dinosaurs?
I didn't say they did it wrong. I just said
I'm just saying.
Archaeologists or paleontologists would have a little bit of, be like, that's just too easy.
Well, now they had a paleontologist on there. He was actually the inspiration for Dr. Alan Grant. His name was Dr. Jack Horner. And he was on the movie the whole time, making sure things weren't too wrong.
Was he involved in that whole the T-Rex scandal? Like he was on the good, like he wasn't in the bad side of it. Like there was like some
I'm
issue
unaware
where it
of
was
a
like
T-Rex scandal.
Shipping. We'll have to look that up.
I don't know. Now, also a lot of people, just while we're on Dr. Jack Horner, a lot of people are obviously mad that they're not covered in feathers. They said in 1993 at the time there was not enough evidence for him to put feathers on them, even though Dr. Horner wanted them to have feathers. Which I think was represented in Dr. Alan Grant a lot, because throughout the entire movie, all he talks about is how they evolved into birds. They are in formations like birds. They do this like birds. They're fucking birds, people. But yeah. Spielberg also thought, hey, this skelly skin is going to be way scarier than feathers coming at you. I mean, I'm guessing he hadn't seen the murder bird or whatever the fuck that thing is at the time, but...
Like the terror birds?
Terror birds, yeah.
Like the shoebill?
Yeah, cause I be running.
Google that shit. But they would have had a little bit of both, like...
I'm sure it would have been a little bit of both.
A little scary.
But just, I'm sure people are going to mention the feather thing, so there it is. Dr. Horner tried, guys.
But while Hammond runs into their, like, the office trailer there on site, and he's just going through their shit. Dr. Grant goes in there, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's got, like, the champagne bottle out that he's open. He's like, hey, we were saving that. He's like, yeah, for today. So he tells them a little bit about the park.
He tells them nothing about the park. He tells them a park exists, and he needs you to come down for the weekend and
to
sign off on it. And they're like, us? Why? And he was like, oh, trust me, it's right up your alley. But he never... Like, he just bribes them. He tells them that he'll fund their dig for 3 more years. And they're just like, yeah, bet. But they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, so they have no idea that they're walking into dinosaur land.
I'm sure they thought it was just going to be like a animatronic kind of situation. Like Walt Disney World Jurassic.
Well, I don't even think he mentioned dinosaurs.
Well, he said, it's up your alley. We need you specifically. So, I'm sure they just thought, oh, it's going to be like a animatronic dinosaur, like Walking with Dinosaurs kind of situation.
So then you meet fucking Dennis. So, Dennis is a piece of shit that works at the park.
Yep.
Apparently making this shady-ass deal to steal the embryos for some other dude.
Now, some other dude is Dodson. He works for another company, and he is the focal point, from what I understand, of the upcoming Jurassic World movie. But he offers him $1.5 million for 15 embryos and gives him the famous false bottom Barbasol can so he can sneak the embryos off the island. He tells him he has a plan. He has a computer program that shuts down the park. He has an 18-minute window for him to get the embryos and get to the boat to get off the island.
So you get a helicopter. You meet Dr. Malcolm, the whole chaos theory guy. And throughout the whole movie, he's more like the guy I would relate to. Like just looking around going, this ain't gonna fucking work. But...
Right. Well, he halves his time. Half going, this isn't right, this isn't gonna work, this is fucked up, you shouldn't have done this. And half hitting on Dr. Ellie Sattler.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. There's no I mean after it. It's just, yeah. So, at this point, since we're talking about Ian, he is Jeff Goldblum. Let's quickly just talk about the alt could have been casting for this movie. Because I think it's kind of odd. So for Alan Grant, it had also been offered to William Hurt and Harrison Ford.
Who's William Hurt?
He's been in a million things, but you're going to know him best as the War Doctor from Doctor Who. Okay.
Well, he must have been young.
Yeah.
I could kind of see Harrison Ford.
Well, hold tight to that Harrison Ford thing. Lex, the granddaughter, they offered to Christina Ricci. Ellie, Robin Wright. Now you're going to say, who is that? Princess Bride or post-plastic surgery Claire from House of Cards.
You mean that bitch Jenny?
That bitch Jenny. Yeah, that's who I mean.
Don't get me started on Jenny.
Ian, they offered to Jim Carrey, which I think would have destroyed this entire movie. I think Jeff Goldblum's particular brand of odd makes Ian Malcolm. I do not think Jim Carrey would have been a good Malcolm at all. But they offered John Hammond to Sean Connery. So you get Hammond as Sean Connery and you get Alan Grant as Harrison Ford, and this just turns into fucking Indiana Jones dinosaurs.
They did that, didn't they? And there's some kind of
I think it's all just
spin off of that.
No, but anyway, I was just like, you can't have Sean Connery and Harrison Ford like this. That's horrible.
I think they did good with Hammond. Now, if they could only gotten David Attenborough to do the presentation for Jurassic Park, the whole DNA thing, it would have been great.
Not so much the DNA thing, but the guy in the car who is...
I think it should have been both.
The guy in the car narrating is Richard Kiley, but if it had been Attenborough who narrates all of the Discovery Channel, Blue Planet, all of that stuff, would have been great. And it's his brother.
Yeah. But I like when they go on this little presentation and it's basically a ride through the inner workings of the park.
Right.
The lawyer turns to him and he's like, Are these autoerotica?
He was like, oh, no, we have no animatronics on the park. When the helicopter first lands, they get in the Jeeps, they're driving through the park a little bit,
When they landed, it looked like they landed in the middle of the island. I feel like they should have known a little bit about what was coming.
I think tree coverage, because you learn in the second one that they had an aviary for your pterodactyls, or pterodons. Shout out to Dinosaur Train.
Dinosaur Train.
Oh, God. Flashback. That's when you take the nephew back home.
Dinosaur Train.
So, you land, they get in the Jeeps, they're driving through the park. Ellie, who is the paleobotanist, is just super into this gigantic leaf and talking about how it shouldn't exist and it's been extinct for millions of years. Alan has seen a dinosaur and just grabs the top of her head and slowly turns it like, shut the fuck up about your leaf nobody cares about.
Not just any dinosaur, but probably one of the biggest land dinosaurs.
Littlefoot.
Brachiosaurus. Brachiosaurus?
Yeah.
Or was... There's... Sometimes they were called brontosauruses.
Yeah.
Like
Littlefoot from Land Before Time.
Yes. Saw a bunch of big ass Littlefoots, and he's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, shut up about your leaf and look at this.
Because they're in a Jeep Wrangler. It's they're not big cars,
no.
And these things are just towering,
huge
over everything.
I mean, they're eating out of gigantic trees. So yeah. Ian's like, he did it. That crazy son of a bitch did it. So I feel like he had his doubts. Even though he was told what's there, I feel like he definitely had some doubts that it was real.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, until you see it, the man who tells you, hey, I created a park full of dinosaurs is just a crazy man, right?
He's just a rich old... But Dr. Grant looks at him and he's like, how fast are they? And he's like, well, we clocked the T-Rex at 32 miles an hour. And they're like, what the... A T-Rex?
Yeah. You have a T, you got dizzy, you had to sit down.
They're like, how? He's like, let me show you.
Well, then you see an overarching, like you see the water hole and just a bunch of different breeds of dinosaurs surrounding the water hole.
Yeah, so you get more of a glimpse into what they were actually looking
He's
at.
like, I was right. They do move in herds. It gets all too much for him.
So they go into the whole presentation and the ride thing.
Well, real quick first, they go to the Welcome Center and Ian turns to him and is like, what do you think? And he was like, I think we're out of a job. And Ian says, don't you mean you're extinct?
Yeah.
Which apparently came from Phil Tippett, who you know in the credits as the dinosaur supervisor, who was like an animator, like stop motion animation. And then they decided to CGI the dinosaurs and he was like, well, I guess I'm extinct. And they're like, ooh, that's a good line. We're putting that shit in the movie.
I don't remember what it was called, but there is a like traveling exhibit.
Walking with Dinosaurs.
Now, is that the good? There's two.
Walking with Dinosaurs is the good one.
There's the one that's like all like everything's kind of stationary and there's certain parts of that move and you get to see a little bit. But then the other one's more like those fucking Broadway puppets.
Yeah.
Where there's a person or more than one person inside this puppet, and they're dressed in black, so you see them, but the dinosaur kind of stands out, and that thing fucking
that looks super real
is amazing.
Yeah, that's Walking with Dinosaurs.
That would be pretty badass too.
I always wanted to take our nephew when he was littler because he was obsessed with dinosaurs. Like at 6 or 7, he could name you every dinosaur in existence, like big. Like dinosaur names are complicated, and he would give you their full scientific name.
I think he kind of lost that a little bit.
I think so too, because I asked him once, I was like, could you still tell me every kind of dinosaur there is? And he was like, oh, no way.
I think if he thought about it, he could. But his default answer is, I don't know.
He had a little bearded dragon, and I bought him that book with all the dinosaur names in it, and he would sit at the kitchen table and read it and show it to the bearded dragon and be like, that's what you are, but bigger. He was so sweet when he was little.
So they go into this presentation room, ride, whatever you want to call it, and he basically, he had called it, he's going to show you his living biological attractions.
Right.
Which kind of leads into the whole theme park deal. And they talk about the DNA and how
you meet Mr. DNA.
Yeah.
They said that they were unsure how the fuck they wanted the movie to appeal to kids, but they're like, how are we going to explain the science of this to kids? And somebody was like, oh, you have a cartoon DNA strand and explain it all. And they kind of laughed and were like, yeah, that's what we'll do. And then he was like, wait, I think that's what we'll do. So Mr. DNA was born.
Before they get there and they're walking through like the gift shop area, whatever, the cafeteria gift shop, they already have all the merch.
Yeah, they're ready to go.
It is ready to go. But I
imagine you use that for the movie and then you just put it on store shelves because it also sold a lot of merch.
So they learn about the whole process of extracting the DNA. They use the example of the blood of the mosquito from the amber. So they've got multiple sources of stuff, and they've got partial genomes of different dinosaurs, and they filled in the holes with amphibian DNA. They said frogs, which is very important later in the movie.
It seems like Dr. Wu, played by B.D. Wong, might just not be great at his job. Because he does the whole frog DNA fuck up, and then like you said in Jurassic World, he does the cuttlefish fuck up. Like,
I feel like
he's a specific, really good at his job, and fucks up a bit. He
is the line that Goldblum says, Dr. Malcolm. They were so preoccupied with whether or not, no, this is paraphrasing, whether or not, they were so preoccupied with if they could, they didn't think about whether or not they should. Right. And he's like, hey, can we do this? And just the whole repercussions thing just left his mind, or the consequences.
But I mean, you know what you don't do for a living? Nothing with DNA. But they were like, oh, it's part cuttlefish. And you're like, God damn it.
Well, I knew immediately. I knew immediately because I watch all those fucking, like, Blue Planet.
Cuttlefish is
all
amazing.
Those, the Deep Sea, and there's multiple cuttlefish documentaries.
Cuttlefish is my second favorite marine life.
What's your first?
You don't know what my favorite marine animal is?
Mermaids?
Mermaids aren't real, asshole. Blowfish.
Blowfish, yeah.
It's like we've never been to an aquarium. Then cuttlefish, then sea turtles.
Sea turtle. What was your favorite character in Nemo?
The little
octopus?
The little octopus that kept inking.
I can see that. That's close to the cuttlefish.
You made me ink. And then the sea turtle's son.
So I was thinking it was going to be one of those.
Right. So it goes past the scientists working. And they're like, no, we just ain't going to fly by that. Like, you didn't just say what the fuck you said. And they stop the ride. They, like, push their seatbelt things off of them and all run away.
Not really seatbelts, like the safety bar.
The safety bar, yeah.
So that stops the ride and they get off and it's like, the lawyer's like, can they do that? Can they do that? It's like, motherfucker, they just did it.
They did it. Yeah, they worked as a team.
So they go, see, this is a problem with this thing in the whole movie. Things don't lock. There's no locked doors because they walk off the ride and they're in the fucking room. There's no security.
Yeah.
Like, I know they don't have guests yet, but you gotta lock the doors.
There should definitely be somebody with a gun.
Some little asshole kid doesn't come in and steal all your raptor babies, take one home, and it murders half of Kansas. And now we got to put a fence around Kansas to keep the velociraptors in.
Well, I mean, in the last Jurassic, I mean, the dinosaurs are here now in Jurassic World.
So they mention all the filling in the holes and the amphibian DNA, and they get to see one of the velociraptors hatch.
Well, he doesn't know it's a velociraptor. He sees an egg hatch. After it's born, Alan has it in his hand. He's like, what is this? And Dr. Wu, very nonchalant, is like, oh, it's a velociraptor, and goes back to write. And he's like, you bred velociraptors? He was like, yeah, no big deal, bro.
I feel like he had a suspicion, and then it hit him like, what is this?
Oh, yeah, I mean, he knew holding it. He just needed somebody to be like, oh, it's a velociraptor, asshole.
It's like when a kid does something they shouldn't do, and you already know the answer, but you're just trying to teach them.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
So...
they tell him that they can't breed in the wild because they're all female because they control their chromosomes, which is where you get...
Malcolm.
His very famous line that life will find a way.
He says, life will not be contained. Life finds a way. And he talks about chaos and all that. And they go right into feeding time, which is when I had previously thought this was feeding the T-Rex, because you never really see anything. But it's obviously the Velociraptor enclosure.
Right. So you get Robert back from, he's the guy in the beginning yelling shooter. What do you keep calling him? You keep calling him by his last name.
Muldoon.
Right. I just have him as Robert. We're on a first name basis. We're homies.
Specialized game warden from Kenya that...
But he walks up while they're looking over, and he's like, this should all be destroyed. Yeah. I was like, God damn. But he tells them what you said earlier about the alpha raptor coming in and killing all but two of the others. They're just her bitches now. But it said, to feed them, they're feeding them a cow. They have it on a harness. They lower it in. He said they have to feed them like that because when the feeders would come, they would run into the fence. And they're like, yeah, but it's electrified. And he was like, yeah, but they never hit the same spot twice. They were testing it for weaknesses. They have problem-solving skills. They're smart. They remember. Which is not what you want to hear about an apex predator that you just brought back to life, that they're smart and remember and can systematically test your security systems.
Yeah, so that's where you knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you always thought it was the T-Rex just because that's what you expect to be the big bad.
Yeah. It's like the T-Rex is on all the posters, but the star of the movie is definitely the Velociraptor.
Always the Raptors, yeah. So, our main group of guys are all having lunch before they go out into the park, and the lawyer's like, man, this isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. This is great. He's all excited about all the money they can make. And Ian is just like, yeah, things are a lot worse than we thought.
Yeah.
Talking about how it didn't require any discipline for them to accomplish this. And like you said earlier, they were too busy thinking about if they could and not busy enough to asking, should we?
He basically put him down. He's like, you stole all this knowledge from other people who did the work.
Right.
Who actually, and I think I don't think he says anything about consequences or anything like that, but he's like, these people have thought this through. You haven't thought this through. You're trying to cash in on this, and this is fucked.
Right. Hammond maintains that, condors are going extinct, and if he had an island full of condors, nobody would be giving him shit. But also, condors aren't going to rise up and kill us all. So
I like Hammond sitting there, and he's just like, he's got his hands together, he's shaking his head. He's like, I brought all you people here to help me sign off on this park. And the only motherfucker here that agrees with me is this blood-sucking lawyer.
Yeah, the one he doesn't like anyway. The lawyer, no offense, he was just like, thank you.
But the lawyer is, I feel like he's in on the group of investors himself, because he's like, we are gonna fucking be loaded.
He is very excited. He's like, we could charge anything we want. $2,000 a day, $10,000 a day, the merchandising and this and that, and we're gonna make so much money.
But Hammond's like, no, this
for
park is for everybody.
He's like, it's okay. We can have a coupon day.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna take this down from $10,000 to $9,998. But Hammond's like, no, this park is his baby.
Right.
And later in the movie, you could definitely tell, he wants this thing to work so bad, because this is something that's, as he Because when everybody else rides into the park on the Jeeps and they get their first look, he's not really looking at the dinosaurs. He's looking at the amazement on these people's faces, right. And that's what he wants.
Right.
He kind of wants a legacy almost, even though he's filthy fucking rich to do this. Say Ford Explorers.
Yeah. Well, also, speaking of his legacy, his grandkids come because he says children are Jurassic Park's target audience, and he wants to see what they think.
Yes.
So they're all getting in the cars. His grandkids are Tim and Lex. Tim is a dinosaur enthusiast who has read Dr. Alan Grant's book and wants nothing more than to talk to him about it at length.
Hold on. In the lunch scene or whatever, Dr. Ellie Sadler says, she questions, how do you know you could control them?
Right.
And they don't mention it then, but like Malcolm says, the whole chaos there, he's like, you can't.
I think she says you can't control it.
Yeah. So you're not going to be able to control it. So she's out at this point.
Yeah. I think everybody's pretty well out, except for the lawyer.
Dr. Malcolm's out. I feel like Dr. Grant is...
I feel like he's
teetering on a no.
He thinks it's a bad idea, but he's also real excited to see these dinosaurs.
Yeah, so he's holding out for the rest of it. But like you said, I think everybody's out except for Hammond, the lawyer, and Dr. Grant still on the fence.
But the grandkids come, Lex and Tim. Tim just wants to talk to Alan, which is like Alan's worst fear, a child that wants to talk to him.
Well, Tim is kind of like our nephew in the fact that he is just spouting off these
words. Hyper-focused, he's very...
But he keeps mentioning, I also read this other book by this guy, and this dude's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, he was
like... You can obviously tell Grant does not like that.
Yeah, he was like, he disagrees with you, and he says they didn't evolve into birds, and they didn't have feathers, and his book was like 3 times as thick as yours, which Ellie loved. She was like, man, yours was even fully illustrated. And the granddaughter is Lex. She is a vegetarian, you find out, and terrified of dinosaurs.
She also considers herself somewhat of a hacker.
She is a hacker. It is important.
Is a hacker and considers yourself a hacker are 2 different things.
Well, still.
She was able to...
Okay, hey. Spoilers for later.
Okay, put a pin in that.
But so they're trying to each pick their car, and Tim keeps getting out of a car and in a car, and Alan's like, what car are you going in? He's like, oh, whichever one you do. So he walks him to another car, opens the door, puts him in, closes it, turns around, and Lex is like, she said I should ride with you, that it would be good for you. But none of the kids end up in the car with him. You have the lawyer and the 2 kids in one car, Ellie, Alan, and Ian in the other car.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm going to be riding this car. If you just want to get in here, you can get in too. I'll be back in a second, and fucking peace out.
Yeah. He's not having it at all. He may not want kids more than you don't want kids.
I don't know. So they get kind of started in on this tour, and the first stop is the T-Rex exhibit or enclosure, whatever you want to call it.
Real fast before this, sorry. When they start the tour, you find out that Samuel L. Jackson is running this whole thing. He's...
him and fucking Dennis.
Him and Dennis. Like, chain smoking, talking with a cigarette in his mouth, glasses, Samuel L. Jackson.
He doesn't drop an F-bomb in this, does he?
I don't think so.
Motherfucker.
There you go. That one for him.
I can't believe he doesn't drop an F-bomb.
It's a weird role for him at all. Like, it's such a tiny kind of role.
I mean, I wouldn't say tiny.
Small for him.
But it's definitely not as big as you would think.
Right.
For him.
So anyway, go ahead. The ride starts.
They get to that T-Rex exhibit, and I mean, these exhibits or habitats are very large.
I want to interrupt you again. I'm so sorry. Okay, number 1. Lex gets into the car, and the screen is like a CD-ROM thing you can play with, which it looks so weird and so dated. I bought the soundtrack to Romeo and Juliet, the movie, like with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. And it had the CD-ROM thing with it. And you could play, like, games and search through stuff. And it was so fucking stupid. But I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world at the time. But it reminds me every time she's like, oh, it's got a CD-ROM. And starts playing with it. But also they go through the Jurassic Park gates. Like the famous giant. And he was like, what the hell are we keeping in here? King Kong?
Here's another issue I have. I know that they are on the tour. And everything is... for the most part, in their own enclosures. So there is another another barrier there. But it definitely needs to be one of those, like, two cars come in, the first gate, they're boxed in like a lock at a dam.
Well,
for boats.
that gate is purely theatrical.
Oh, yeah.
That is just for show.
But they definitely need the double door system where you go in the first door has to shut.
Now, they have that when they get into the gas-powered Jeeps. There were 2 gates that they had to go through separately.
Yeah. But I guess where this is the tour is probably a little more secure.
Right. And it is being narrated by Richard Kiley, who apparently was a big pull, calls Hammond, as he does throughout the entire thing, comes on and says, "I spared no expense."
Still feel like he should have got Attenborough.
He says it about everything. I spared no expense.
So...
You also find out at this time that Dennis is a hardcore slob and is having money trouble.
Yeah, Dennis...
As the tour starts, Dennis tells him, they get into an argument about money, that if you can find someone who could do everything I've done for cheaper, go ahead and find them, good luck. And he was like, I am not going to be brought in to this with you again. It was like, your financial troubles are your own, blah, 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 blah. But I found it weird that he says, I spared no expense 1,000 times, but for the guy that made your entire park controlled through the computer, like he said, you could control the entire park from that room for 3 days because of all the engineering he did, basically, that he cheaped out.
I don't think he cheaped out. I think Dennis is a piece of shit.
He just
and
wants
Dennis
more
got
money
his
now.
fucking money. Dennis probably got the same money Samuel L. did, and he just pissed it away. Like,
could be.
And Dennis is obviously a super piece of shit, and he's a dumbass. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah. But then Robert tells everybody to shut the fuck up because they're coming up on the T-Rex paddock, which is where I have interrupted you 3 times, so I'm now going to let you speak.
We'll see. So they get there, and, you know, like I was saying, these habitats are huge because T-Rex is fucking huge. All you see is really the trees, and they lure it to the front by offering a sacrificial goat.
Yeah, Lex was real unhappy
gotta
with
be crazy thing for kids to see. It's like, oh, look at this goat. Like, blood and guts everywhere, because I imagine a T-Rex is kind of like watching a 4-year-old eat spaghetti with no utensil.
Yeah.
Like, just intestines and shit everywhere, and it's just slurping
It probably
it
is awful. I didn't even really think about that, but yeah.
Like, it's definitely messy.
It's probably not what you want your kids to see at all.
No. So, they're trying to lure it up, but...
It's a full no-show.
Yeah.
They're talking in the car. Ian Malcolm says, God creates dinosaurs. God kills dinosaurs. God creates man. And then Ellie pops in and finishes it with dinosaurs kill man. Women inherit the earth.
All right.
You didn't take anything away from that, huh?
Yeah.
He teaches her about chaos theory while he's kind of hitting on her, showing her how the water will run down her hand.
Meanwhile, Dr. Grant sees, like, there's a group of park workers. They're trying to help this Triceratops that's fallen ill and kind of not really passed out, but just laying on the side, trying to figure out what's wrong with it.
Yeah, he just bails on out the car.
Yeah, they don't have fucking locks on the doors on the car either.
And Ian's like, see, nobody could have predicted he was going to do that. And then Ellie bails out. He was like, and now I'm just talking to myself.
So everybody ends up outside the fucking cars.
Well, Samuel L. Jackson says, see, I told you these needed a locking mechanism.
Yeah. So they're look at this Triceratops, and Dr. Sattler is asking questions, you know. And she finally comes to the point, like, are you sure it's not, like, the plant she's eating?
Yeah,
because a lot of these plants are poisonous, blah, blah, blah. She finds some Indian lilac, and she finds the bulbs, and then she's like, well, we're going to see, how do you know they're not eating it? So she's going to go dig through poop, and I have a problem with the poop. Yes, Triceratops are huge, but they do not shit that much at one go.
I think they had just kind of been shoveling it all over to one side.
I don't think so. They were just boom.
Well,
big old Triceratops patties.
She also has a problem because apparently children, that is what they took away from this, that Laura Dern stuck her hand in dino shit. And still to this day, when she meets children and like tries to shake their hand or hug them or touch them, they scream and run away and say, no, you touched the dino poop. No, that's the lady that stuck her hand in poop. Still, to this day, that's what kids took away.
You do something once.
You stick your hand in shit once. It's all people remember. But while we're on the sick Triceratops, because this is important because people are fucking morons. The picture of Steven Spielberg sitting in front of the Triceratops puppet, and he's smiling, and so many people posted it, and some people did it in jest, joking. But other people were like, oh my god, he makes me so fucking sick. Look he went on this trophy kill and killed this beautiful animal. How could he do this? Boycott Spielberg. And I'm like, are they fucking for real?
They think he got in his motherfucking time machine?
You think he killed a Triceratops?
Cranked that bitch to 88 and said, let's go.
Do they know it's a Triceratops? Or are they so stupid that they think it's like a rhino or something?
They don't know what it is. People are dumb. People like to shit on stuff before they even know what the fuck is happening.
It's the craziest thing. Also, Triceratops, my favorite dinosaur, probably from the Land Before Time, because her name was Sarah. Also, Dr. Alan Grant's favorite.
I thought his favorite was the...
No, they scared him to death. He said she was always my favorite growing up, and then he's like hugging her and feeling her breath, and he's just like a kid in a damn candy store.
I thought you were going to say hugging her and feeling her breasts. And
her breath, like feeling her breathe.
I know what breath means, but Jesus Christ.
I know you know what breath is.
Feeling her breathe.
Just trying to help the audience know that Dr. Alan Grant did not molest a narked out Triceratops.
You just try to mansplain something to me?
No, I can't do that. Only you can do that, which you do.
Nah. I think women can mansplain shit too.
So I went on a date with this guy before you.
I didn't know there was a time before me.
There was a time before you, sorry.
No, I don't believe it.
Little men can mansplain stuff too, apparently. It was Entrapment was the movie.
That was a terrible if I remember.
Maybe
I'm wrong.
It was a bad movie. It was, I can't remember who I was in. I think Selma Hayek was in it. It don't matter. It was a girl. And halfway through the movie, in the theater, this motherfucker looks over at me and says, now see, what's happening here is that guy is a bad guy. And he's trying to convince her to do this, but she doesn't want to, and she's a double secret agent. And,
y'all are in the movie.
We are in the theater. And I know that's not the plot, but something, he said some bullshit like that.
Together watching the same fucking TV screen.
Yeah. Wow. Not doing, we are watching the movie. And I was like, yeah, I can see that too. And he's like, well, it's just complex. I wasn't sure if you could get it or not.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, well, this is the last time this is happening as a thing. So yeah, mansplaining is a thing that actually happens. If you are a man and you are listening to this, I'm not militant, feminist, anti-man, but y'all gotta fucking stop that shit.
I feel like it's not just a mansplaining thing, it's you think everybody else is fucking stupid.
Now listen, I said this was a situation before we got together, right? I feel like y'all need to know I was 15 years old when we started dating. So, this person was a little young piece of shit. Okay, so a storm is rolling in. They have to get all the workers off the island quicker than they thought. The boats are leaving. They have to stop the tour. They tell him it's better to go ahead and stop the tour now and pick it back up tomorrow than to risk something happening. So they call everybody in. Ellie is going to stay with the vet that's working on the Triceratops, and everybody else is going to get back in the Ford Explorers and go back to the Welcome Center. Now, they say a storm is rolling in. While they were filming in Hawaii, an actual hurricane did hit. They show a lot of footage in this movie of, the storm rolling in, and I wonder if it was actual footage of that they got during that hurricane.
Probably.
Because they said it was the most powerful hurricane in Hawaii's history. And everybody was all panicked and freaked out. And that Attenborough, who plays Hammond, slept through the entire thing.
Oh, he has those good drugs, didn't he?
No, the next day everybody was like, how did you sleep through it? And he was like, I was a child during the London Blitz. I can sleep through anything. So I guess if you are a child in World War II while the Nazis are just dropping bombs on your city,
you get used to that.
You can sleep through anything. Like how they say don't be quiet when your newborn's sleeping, like vacuum the house and talk full volume and you'll have a child that can sleep through noise. But if they get used to sleeping in perfect silence, you are going to have to be silent for the rest of your life when they're asleep. So I guess that's what happened with him, but that is crazy to sleep through a hurricane. Dennis.
Fucking Dennis.
His whole plan is fucked because the storm rolled in and the boat has to leave early. So he's on the phone arguing with his inside man on the boat that I need 15 minutes. You have to give me 15 minutes. And he's like, dude, there's nothing I can do. Like, when the captain says we gotta leave, we gotta leave. Like, what the fuck do you want me to do? So he's like telling everybody he's going to debug the system and that some of the things are going to be down, but just for a minute, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. And he's like clearly up to something and they're all just staring at him. And he sets his watch to the timer and start. And it fucks everything up.
But while Dennis is doing that, was it Malcolm and Grant were having the conversation about kids?
Yes.
And I guess Malcolm mentions he's got 3 kids. Grant was asking questions about it. He's like, it's great. Anything can and will happen.
He said, oh, are you married? And Ian, who Malcolm, says, oh yeah, occasionally. I'm always on the lookout for a future ex-Mrs. Malcolm.
Yeah. Oh, no, he says, yeah, kids are great. Anything at all can and does happen.
Yeah. While passing his flask.
Yep.
And then he was like, so speaking of future ex-Miss Malcolms, Ellie seeing anybody? And Alan's like, why? He's like, y'all. Like, they're literally holding hands on the helicopter. Like, pay attention, bro.
Some people can't read the room.
Some people can't read the room. So Dennis makes it successfully to the embryo cold storage, loads the 15 embryos up in his can of Barbasol, and then everything starts shutting down. The electric-powered Ford Explorers stop, and fences start failing, and everybody's fucking panicked. And then Dennis shows us how badly he can drive.
So this motherfucker...
I knew you were going to handle it. Like, I was done.
This motherfucker works at this island. They've been working for years to get this thing set up the way it is. Years. And he seems like he's been there for a while.
Oh, I would definitely say from the beginning.
How does he not know how to get to fucking work? He gets off the boat, he goes to work. He leaves work, he gets back on the boat.
Well, he runs, it's pouring the rain.
It doesn't
He
matter.
runs into a sign.
Doesn't matter.
And knocks it down, and then he doesn't know which way to point the arrow to go.
So if you drive out the end of the road, you knock down our street sign, are you going to be like, which way does this go? Or are you going to turn left or right? You're going to know which way the fuck you're going.
I imagine that they probably don't drive themselves into work. Like, after they get off the boat, they probably have drivers. I'm assuming he's just never paid attention.
If you're that old, you still know.
I imagine he's just never paid attention. No, I don't know, though.
He would still know.
You would
Normal
think.
people would still fucking know.
So his Jeep gets stuck, I guess, and he's getting the tow winch. Is that what that thing is called?
Yeah, he winches himself to a tree, loses his glasses, but he is smart enough to follow the steel cable back to the car.
Yes.
He's like, fuck it, I'll have money to buy new glasses, but one of those spitting ass bitches finds him.
Now, is that a Dilapa this?
Yeah, see, that's pronounced spitting ass bitch.
How do you say it?
Spitting. Dilophosaurus, yeah.
Okay. So it is the thing that spits venom in your eye and has the neck flaps that pop out, right? Its roar is a combination of a howler monkey, a hawk scream, a rattlesnake hiss, and a swan call.
Seems like a lot of shit.
So they mixed all that shit together to make its roar. But it's like, he's talking to it like it's a fucking dog. He was he was like, what, you want food? I don't have food. And then he tries to play fetch with it, and it's just kind of keeping him occupied. And he was like, no wonder you're extinct. I'm going to run over you when I come back down. And it spits at him, it misses, it hits his chest. He's like, fuck you. He gets in his car, there's one in his car, direct fucking hit to the eyeballs. And then you just hear all kinds of carnage of them eating him.
Yeah. Well, as soon as he was like, I'm fucking hit you when I get in this car, I was like, I hope you fucking die.
Yeah. He drops his can of Barbasol. It rolls down. Mud falls over it. I'm sure we're going to find it as a fossil or something in the next one.
So fucking Dennis gets got.
Dennis gets got. He is gone.
Presumably.
Rip to Dennis.
While all this is happening and the fences are shut down, old Rex has figured out that he is not trapped anymore.
The vehicles have stopped in front of the T-Rex paddock.
Again.
It eats the goat, and then it throws the leg of the goat over the fence. And when it does it, its claw, paw, hand, I don't know, touches the fence, and he's like, oh, bitch.
So they're like, where's the goat? And in the sequence of events, where's the goat? And the lawyer fucking gets out of the car. Like, that car's the only thing that's going to save you, if it can save you. He runs to, like, these
glorified porta potty, yeah.
Is prepared to shit himself, I guess.
Yeah, because Alan and Ian in the other car, like, where's he going? And he's like, well, I guess when you gotta go, because you can't really see anything happening yet. Like, the cables are starting to break.
Oh, he knows.
But they're kind of further back.
That the goat was gone. And he said, fuck it, I'm out. So he leaves these two little kids. And then, Rex decides, I'm fucking out of here.
So Tim's playing. He gets the night vision goggles out so he can see what's going on. Like, he sees things happening before anybody else.
Kind of, but it's more like, do you hear that?
Right.
Or do you feel that?
Which brings us to the impact tremors. Like, one of the most iconic scenes in the movie is when the water starts shaking in the glass. And every time anything happens in my glass starts shaking, I'm like, oh, here we go. That scene, Steven Spielberg was driving to work one day, blasting max volume, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And his water bottle was doing that. And he was like, oh, bitch, I gotta put that in the movie. So they set it on a platform and then plucked guitar strings underneath of it to make that happen. It's just weird to me how
get ideas in there,
simple things like that, like, fit into the movie, you know? And become, like, one of the most iconic scenes from the movie.
So old boy breaks the fence and Malcolm's like, I hate being right all the time.
Damn, I hate being right, yeah.
So Lex finds a flashlight.
Yes.
She turns the flashlight on. It catches old Rex's eye. Comes after it. And Tim is like, turn the fucking flashlight off. Like, turn it off.
Right.
Why this bitch didn't turn the flashlight off when
she
was told?
She was trying.
You hold it to your stomach. You put it on the floor or something.
She did stop moving it. Because him and Alan are screaming it's visions based on movement. Which they have decided they are wrong about. And that they probably see very well.
I don't know.
So, you now know more than the dinosaur experts?
No, just...
So, if you, like, time machine out of fucking 2020 and you find yourself with T-Rex, their vision is probably not based on movement. Hide.
Behind
Run.
very large objects.
Serpentine, motherfucker.
Very large objects. You want to do the parked car situation around a very large object. So, old boy Rex breaks the sunroof on this thing.
Now, that was not supposed to fucking happen. It was not supposed to go down that far. It was just supposed to, like, tap it, but the crew, puppeteers, whatever, animatronics, sent it a little too hard. It broke the sunroof and was actually holding it down on the kids like that. That was not at all supposed to happen. So their screams are genuine and real. And Steven Spielberg was like, this is goddamn cinematic gold. And used the first take of them freaking the fuck out.
Was the sunroof ever supposed to break?
No.
So after the sunroof breaks... Did they then say, because later on, when Dr. Grant kind of helps Timmy out of the car falls over and they get saved because the sunroof isn't there to crush them and they're back inside the car.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I wonder what happened.
But they said it wasn't supposed to happen, but all their screams and terror and faces were genuine, and he was like, oh yeah, bitch. But this is also the part in the movie where 8-year-old Sarah was like, fuck this shit. I'll be in the parking lot if you need me, Mom. And ran my ass out of there.
So I guess Grant knows that they got a flashlight. He figures there's something in the back where she got the flashlight from. He gets some flares. He's like, this'll do it. He jumps out, pops the flare, and he's waving it around so the T-Rex will see. It starts coming after him, but he chucks the flare and he freezes.
Right.
Because the whole based on motion thing. And he's good. And Dr. Malcolm tries to help and he fucks everything up.
He doesn't fuck everything up. Here's what happened. It wasn't originally in the script like that. He was supposed to run away and hide like the lawyer did. And Jeff Goldblum went to Steven Spielberg and was like, Jeff Goldblum ain't no pussy. He wants to get it, he can get it. So he convinced him to let him light a flare as well and run to let the T-Rex chase him so Alan could save the kids. And he was like, all right, that is better, you're right.
But he already had the T-Rex going away.
But it wasn't following it. It wasn't.
I think it was. It turned and took a few steps until he lit the second one.
But Alan starts screaming at him to freeze, and he was like, no, just go save the kids.
Yeah, whatever.
But he leads it straight to the potty where the lawyer is hiding.
Oh, yeah. And he gets gobbled up like...
Yeah, I'm not sure that he didn't know what he was doing.
So, old Rex has the kids... No, he has Lex and Grant trapped kind of in the parked car situation, but they're fucked because this thing's tipped over. It's basically crushed, and he's spinning it like a top, and he's pushing them around. And finally, Dr. Grant decides to rappel down the cliff, which is kind of like a retaining wall.
Right.
Using the wires from the fence that's already broken.
So he has Lex on his back while he does it. Poor Tim's still in the car.
While they're rappelling down, Rex is still fucking playing with the car.
Yeah, he's trying to push it over the edge. So he's swinging as hard as he can from side to side, and he finally gets Lex to reach out and grab another cable, and they dodge out of the way just as the car topples over.
Topples over the cliff and lands into this bitch-ass tree.
Why is it a bitch-ass tree?
They got all these trees that ever existed on Earth, and they're bringing them back, and they bring back this bitch-ass tree. That car broke every fucking branch on the way down.
As it should.
No.
Yes. How much the fuck do you think a Ford Explorer weighs?
Did you see how tall the tree was?
I don't care.
Half of the Ford Explorer's been crushed out of it.
You know what else breaks trees? Wind, snow, too much rain. Yeah. It's a goddamn... What? You weigh cars in tons, right? Roughly, it weighed a lot, and it was coming down at a high velocity.
Yeah, it might break some of the branches on the way down, but once it gets stopped, it's not going to just...
when it hit a big branch, it stopped.
Only for a little bit.
Until they jostled it. You always find the weirdest shit to complain about. Is it this tree here that they're sleeping? No. But it was a fucking tree. Also, it may not have been a bitch-ass tree. It may have just been a baby tree.
Yeah, it was too tall to be a baby tree. It was a bitch-ass tree. So they get down to the bottom. Dr. Grant and Lex are down at the bottom of the tree. They realize, Timmy's still in the car.
Right. She is full on freaking out, just screaming, he left us! He left us!
Dr. Grant's like, shut the fuck up. You stay here. Don't say anything.
No.
Don't move.
He very nicely told her, I know he left you, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to take care of you. But I have to go get your brother. I need you to stay here. And then I thought she made a very good executive call of getting in the drain pipe.
Yes. That was probably the best thing she did the whole movie.
Right. Oh, really? Really? You're going to take the side of one of our ratchet reviewers later? Really? That's the best thing. She saves everybody's life later.
She saves everybody's life. She goes into the file manager
and saved their life.
File.
Boy,
point and click.
We'll get there. I didn't know I was going to have to fucking defend Lex.
So, Dr. Grant goes back up in the tree to get Timmy out. Timmy's freaking out.
Yeah.
He
threw up.
Both of the kids have full...
reason to freak out?
Yeah, they got their reasons for freaking out. And he's like, just come with me. But as Dr. Grant reaches in the car, he turns the steering wheel a little bit, and the car kind of destabilizes.
Right. Also, I'm not going to be like, I threw up. I'm going to be like, I shit my fucking pants. Y'all got extra pants?
At that point, you don't even need to mention it. Yeah, we all did, motherfucker. Let's go. Let's get out of here before this thing figures out how to climb a tree.
Yeah.
So, he does get him down, but the fucking bitch-ass tree branch starts breaking, and the car's basically chasing them down the tree like fucking Jason Voorhees. And this is where we're lucky the sunroof had popped because the car flips over, and as they think they're dying, they're back in the car.
Right.
Which I wonder if that was always planned, like they were going to break the sunroof in a different way.
I'm sure it was going to break, like he made that car his bitch. It just wasn't supposed to break on top of the children.
But it worked out pretty good, though.
It did. But he was like, well, we're back in the car. He's like, at least you're out of the tree, ungrateful bitch. So while this is all going on, back at the Welcome Center, Samuel Jackson, with the cigarette in his mouth, never taking it out, never fully opening his mouth, explains what's going on. That Dennis has somehow shut down the park. He doesn't know what's going on. The only way to fix it is to go line by line through all this code. There's like 2 million lines of code. He took the key tracing program off, so there's nothing he can do that he cannot get it back online without Dennis. John Hammond asked Robert if he would take a gas jeep and go find his grandkids. Ellie was like, I'm going with you.
I thought he said gas jeep.
Gas. A gas jeep. He's British.
In the meantime, Sattler and Muldoon find Malcolm in the bathroom rubble. And Well,
it's not in the meantime, it's next, because he asked them to take the jeep, and then they pull up, they find the cars, everybody's screaming, where's the other car? So they walked up, and they're both looking at something very far apart from each other, and Robert's like, I think this is whatever the lawyer's name is, and she was like, yeah, I think this is too. And as she goes to walk away, they hear a moan, and it's in Malcolm under a bunch of rubble. His leg's fucked up, he's taken his belt off and made a tourniquet for his leg.
He's like, remind me to thank John for a lovely weekend.
They get him in the car and go in search of the other jeep. Like, she saw that it had fallen over the cliff or hillside, whatever. They walk down there. They see their footprints leading away, so they know they are at least alive. So they have Ian in the back of the car, all strapped up. He can't do anything. His leg's fucked up. He starts hearing the dun-dun, dun-dun. Notices the car starting to vibrate. He's feeling the impact tremors again. They start running. He's like, hurry, now, get in the car now, right now. They jump in the car. They're speeding away. He's like, we must go faster. They finally get away from this T-Rex that chases them down for a long time. And he was like, whew, wonder if they're going to have that on the tour.
Yeah. Now, old Dr. Grant and the kids have holed up in a tree. And they're watching the Brachiosauruses eat. Guess they're just going to stay in the tree all night. But this motherfucker starts talking to the whales as these things are eating. I don't think it's a good time to be fucking calling the whales when you're hiding from a T-Rex.
Well, I think they're far away from the T-Rex.
It don't matter how far you're still on the island with the T-Rex.
He's in a tree. He's high up in the tree. They were fine. But yeah, he starts kind of trying to talk to him, and Lex is not having it. He's like, don't call the monsters over here. So they snuggle up to him. They're going to sleep. Tim is trying to lighten the mood by telling god-awful children dinosaur jokes. He says, what do you call a blind dinosaur?
Do you think he saw us?
And he said, what do you call a blind dinosaur's dog?
Do you think he saw us Rex?
Yeah. Alan was trying real hard to ha ha.
But in reality, like, this fucking kid. Now's not the time, Timmy.
Yeah. So, back at the Welcome Center, you have Hammond's just sitting there eating all the ice cream that was melting.
He's just like, fuck it, eat the ice cream.
Yeah. Ellie comes in, she tells him that she gave Ian a shot, he's gonna be okay. She's worried about the kids, and he starts talking about, like, his dreams, and he was like, I used to have a flea circus. It was the first thing I built when I came here. And you know how it's all bullshit, but people would say they could see it. And he's like, but with this, I wanted to show them something that was real. And he keeps talking about next time. He's like, next time we'll do this better and that better. And I see where I messed up and I'm going to fix it. And she's like,
fuck your dreams. This ain't going to work.
And she was like, no, you have no control. Any control you have is an illusion. Like, there is no next time. Like, what the fuck? She was like, our loved ones are out there. People have died. Like, get some fucking perspective, asshole.
Yeah.
Like, I know he knows that. But also, like you said in the beginning, like, this is his baby. Like, this is his dream. This is his everything. Like, I can't even imagine how many years of work went into this before we're at this stage. Yeah, the next morning, the kids and Alan wake up in the tree. The dinosaur's just nibbling on the leaves in the tree. They're petting it.
I find it hard to believe this dinosaur will let them interfere with it eating anything.
Well, I mean, Alan gets leaves, and it starts eating it, and he pulls it in. And then they just, they probably doesn't even feel it. Like, they're so big, them barely petting it probably feels like when a fly lands on us. Like, we don't even
but
notice
if he
it.
shakes his head and crushes all them against a tree, he doesn't
I don't
feel
think it was going to happen to that.
Fuck, I'm wet now. What the hell happened?
Well, Lex, who, is terrified of dinosaurs, doesn't get to pet it when he's holding it. So she leans out to pet it and it just sneezes right in her fucking face. I'm also pretty sure it sneezed out of a hole in the top of its head. So as they're making their way back to the visitor center, they find an egg. That's when it dawns on him that the amphibian DNA and some African frogs are able to change their sex in a single-sex environment. And Malcolm was fucking right again.
Life found a way.
Life found a way. Now, here's the thing. Now, I took several geology classes in college. And they made us, smell the rocks, taste the rocks, lick them, do this stuff to identify them. Some rocks you can identify through taste, which there's a whole TikTok segment about licking rocks and how you can tell what they are. I don't recommend it. Some of them stick to your tongue. He's holding this egg and he keeps sniffing it. Like, he holds it to his face and he keeps sniffing it and he thanks and he sniffs it again. Like, is he trying to identify the breed by the smell of the egg? Like, what is he doing?
I think he's more amazed.
Here, he's just wrapped up in it.
He's just trying to take it like this is a real egg. Like, he's probably found fossils or imprints of an egg before.
So it's more amazement than
it's more like his life's work. Like, this is a real.
Like, he just keeps smelling. I was like, he licks it and I'm fucking out. Like.
So I find it, like you were talking about, who does B.D. Wong play? Dr. Wu. Dr. Wu didn't think, like we talked before, didn't think about.
Yeah, he's like the best and the worst at his job. Also, guys, just a full side note, never tweet B.D. Wong negative things about his characters. Like, he gets very upset. Like, I guess he just takes ownership over those characters, and I know they say that, like, every villain is the hero of their own story, but I guess he feels that in his core. Because, like, people tweeted him about how he was clearly the bad guy in Mr. Robot, and he argues with people, yells at people, blocks people for it. Somebody was like, damn, Jurassic Park and Jurassic World makes B.D. Wong's character look like such an asshole, and he was like, fuck you to this person. Like, he gets up fucking set on Twitter if you talk shit about his characters.
Dude, your character could be an asshole and you not be an asshole.
Yeah, like some of your characters are dicks. His character in this film just fucked up. But in Jurassic World, he's a full-on villain.
Yeah.
Like, but he gets real upset. So, like, don't at B.D. Wong and be like, the Run It Back podcast said you're a bitch or nothing, Calls.
Please do. That would make my fucking day. If B.D. Wong was like, run it back, you go fuck yourself. I'd be like, yes, we did it. We made it.
I would be so sad. I love B.D. Wong. Are you kidding me?
Do
like,
too, but...
SUV? No.
We got that 1992 Ford Explorer.
SVU, man. Fucking love B.D. Wong. But he feels real strongly about his characters.
I gotta say that while White Rose might not have been like the ultimate villain,
we're talking about
Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot now.
Definitely wasn't a good guy.
No.
Like, not at all.
No.
Like, she
killed many people.
She killed a lot of people to get what she wanted. She was still a bad guy. She might not have been the bad guy.
Yeah.
She was still a bad guy.
Right.
There were a lot of bad guys in that show.
Good
show, I recommend.
Sometimes people are bad. Anyway, back in the control center, Hammond wants to shut the complete system. He's like, let's fucking turn it off and turn it back on again, bitch. That's what'll work.
They're on the phone with tech support. Have you unplugged it and plugged it back in?
Like, he's an old man. He's like, here's what I know about computers. Unplug it, plug it back in. So they want to shut the whole system down and restart it. Samuel Jackson's character is very much against it. He's like, that it'll work in theory. I can't promise it'll work for real. But he gets outvoted.
But the most important part of this whole thing is the raptor enclosure is the only one that's still on.
It is still working. But at this point, Robert says, let's just use the lysine contingency. So they withheld the lysine, which is an amino acid that they need to survive.
They are biologically unable to make the lysine they need, so they are supplemented with it through their food.
Right.
or whatever. And as soon as they stop feeding them, like I'm guessing they're injecting the cows with them or other kind of food. So if they stop feeding them, they will slowly just die.
But here's the thing. You said slowly, like, he's like, let's just use the lysine contingency. How long is that going to take?
Till they starve.
Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you have people out here who need this shit turned back on now. Y'all are stuck in there. We don't have time for these dinosaurs to die.
Well, they would start to starve and then would get hungry and they would start eating each other. More of them would start eating the other ones as they got hungrier. But so those dinosaurs were fed at some point, so there's some lysine there.
Also,
so this ends up being probably weeks.
Also, if they can have babies, you don't know that they didn't figure out their own lysine.
Yeah, fully functioning baby out in the wild.
Yeah. So, my lysine fun fact. So, I had an issue. It ended up being like an allergy to like the EOS lip balm. But like my lips were jacked up and I went to MedExpress and I was like, something's got to happen here. Like, this is awful. And they're like, yeah, I don't know. It's really gross though. Like, they wouldn't even come near me. Like, she slammed herself up against a back wall. And I was like, what the fuck? It's not mouth herpes. Like, what the fuck? Help me.
She got lip plague.
And she's like, I don't know. You should definitely like ask your pharmacist about lysine. So Jason is my pharmacist. I go to his work. I say, she suggested maybe lysine. What do you think? And he was like, I think that's what keeps the dinosaurs alive in Jurassic Park. And I was like, and? He was like, and that's my lysine knowledge. Dinosaurs need it in Jurassic Park.
Like, I know it's an amino acid, but I didn't know, it's not what was causing the lip thing. You said...
Well, they didn't know what it was, but it turned out to be the EOS lip balm. If you have, like, some weird fucking lip thing, try some lysine. Keeps dinosaurs alive and fixes your skin, apparently.
I don't think so.
I don't know why she wanted me to have it. I think she just wanted me out of her office. So, they decide they're going to restart the system. They turn everything off. They turn everything back on. Nothing comes back on, but the computer does say, ready. So it worked. They just need to go to a breaker box, which is across the fucking park, to flip the main breakers. Samuel says he's going to go. He'll be back in 20 minutes. They're going to go hide in an emergency bunker.
Seems like the plan should have been what they did at the beginning of all this.
Well, they had to have the computers. They needed computers and phones and, So meanwhile, Alan and the kids find themselves looking at a flock of some dinosaur that I am unaware of the name of.
Herd of dinosaurs.
A herd of dinosaurs. But he says, look at how they run. They're just like a flock of birds evading a predator.
Yeah, and I'm like, move, bitch.
Yeah.
Move.
Tim was like, they're evading this way. They go hide behind a log. But yeah, you would think the second he said that, he would be like, oh, predator. Like, what the... They hide behind a log and a T-Rex pops up and just picks one of the dinosaurs off.
Yeah, if I see a bunch of other animals running like that, I'm definitely
running,
trailing behind them to see what the fuck are they running from.
Yeah.
Because, dinosaurs aren't really,
scared.
Working, they're not really out to CrossFit, get those miles in. If they're running, it's for a fucking reason.
Yeah, if y'all see me running, also take off running, because I'm not doing it for enjoyment.
So we quickly find that their fucking reason is a very large T-Rex.
Right.
And T-Rex comes through, and he definitely gets a snack.
So Ellie has decided something is wrong. Old Samuel, I'm sorry, I could not come up with his fucking name.
Arnold.
Mr.
Arnold.
Mr. Arnold has not made it back. It has been way too long. She is going to go look for him and flip this breaker.
Well, Muldoon's going to go.
Robert's going to go with her.
But, he breaks out the gun cabinet. Why... One, he only grabbed one gun.
Yeah.
Why did she not also grab a gun? And why did he not just strap all those to himself?
Yeah, you would think he would take more than one. I guess because he was like an experienced hunter. He didn't think it was a big deal. I don't really know.
Well, he definitely didn't listen to his own advice when he was fucking hunting these fucking raptors.
Oh, yeah. But Hammond is still trying to, hype up his park. And was like, it's just a minor setback. You should have seen Disney when it first opened. Nothing worked. And I think it's Ian who says... Yeah, but when the Pirates of the Caribbean ride breaks down, the pirates don't eat the visitors.
Yep.
So Ellie and Robert are going to go fix the power. Hammond's weird about Ellie going because she's a girl. She's like, when I get back, we can discuss sexism in survival situations, okay? Until then, fuck off.
No, in the meantime...
Also, he's old. He would have never have ever made it.
Yeah. When they rebooted the system, obviously, the Velociraptor containment fence went down, is no longer electrified. So it's only a matter of time before they figured it out and got out. And they quickly find Muldoon and Dr. Sattler on the way to this shed.
Right. So they see the shed, and Ellie's like, if we run, we can make it. And he was like, no, we can't. She's like, what do you mean? He was like, we're being hunted. And he was like, look to this side and that side. You see him? She's like, okay, I see him. He's like, I got you covered. Run. And she takes off running, and he kind of, I don't know. He doesn't shoot them really at that point, but I guess he was just having her back. But she takes off running and makes it inside, shuts the door behind her.
Yeah. She goes in, and they walk. She radios to Hammond, and they kind of walk her through resetting the...
Hammond gets out a whole schematic, and he's like, okay, I'm going to tell you left, right. And Ian's like, no, just have her follow
like the main
pipes.
Power line.
It'll be fine. Like, and he's like, shut up, I know how to read. So he tells her the wrong directions, and Ian just takes it from her and was like, look up. You see pipes, you see power, follow it. So much easier.
So while they're talking her through all the buttons to press and the shit to restart the
right, she has to like charge it by hand and then turn them all on.
Dr. Grant and the kids got to one of the fences. He tests the fence out with a stick and figures out that there's no electricity running. So he decides to scare the shit out of the kids, which is hilarious.
It seems, upon first watching it, like a real asshole thing to do. Like he grabs a hold of the fence and is like, ah, and acts like it shocked him. Seems like a real asshole thing to do.
But I think it got him out of their
There is not a dad alive in this world that wouldn't have done the exact same thing given the opportunity. I cannot tell you how many times my dad stuck his hand into something and went, and jerked back. Like, anytime the hand was going in an unknown spot, you know? So while they're climbing the fence, she is resetting all the power. The fence they're climbing is at the bottom, but she's going through resetting them. The alarms start going off on the fence, like they know it's coming. They're trying to, everybody's down but Tim. They're trying to get Tim down. He's now holding the fence like he's scared to death.
They're trying to get him to jump because they don't know how soon this thing's going to boot up. So he's like, jump, I'll catch you.
Yeah, he does not jump. He gets rocketed off that thing when the power comes back on.
He gets fucked up.
Yeah. Alan catches him and does CPR to bring him back. But yeah, he's gone.
So while Dr. Sattler's reset all the buttons and she finishes, she sees Mr. Arnold's hand.
Well, first, a raptor attacks her. A raptor was very polite and waited for her to finish turning the power on, and then right beside her was like, peekaboo! And she runs. She thinks she's safe. Something touches her. She turns around. It's Mr. Arnold's hand. She's like, oh, Mr. Arnold, thank God, and pulls. And it's just his arm.
Yeah. I feel like they wouldn't have wasted that.
It was leftovers.
I have a very strong inclination to think that velociraptors would not have leftovers.
No, they're keeping it for later.
No,
it was just the one in there. He needed
you ever watch an alligator?
He needed something for later. He needed something to give to the other ones.
The only time an alligator doesn't eat everything is when it kills a whole fucking wildebeest, drags it to the bottom, and wedges it under a log or a rock so it drowns, and then it stays there so he can just come back for lunch later.
It killed a whole man. It killed a whole Samuel.
He just stuffed it there for later?
Yeah. So she runs, she hurts her leg, she's limping. She makes it out of the shed, shuts the door. She thinks she's good to go. Meanwhile, Robert has a shot on the raptor in front of him, but doesn't take all of his advice that he's been saying throughout the whole movie. And right before he goes to pull the trigger, the raptor from the side is like, peekaboo, and eats his face.
Yes.
He says, oh, clever girl, and then gets eaten.
Yep. He got by the one he never saw.
Uh-huh. Isn't that how it happens?
So
Alan and the kids make it back to the welcome center.
And Tim still ain't right.
No.
But he's right enough for fucking dessert. Because they walk past like the dessert trays. And he's just fucking bleeding from his ears eating cheesecake. Like a motherfucker.
Well, they haven't eaten in like a whole day. He's probably hungry. He's been through it. His hands are bandaged. His hair's sticking up. He's probably still got electricity coursing through him. Alan leaves them in the Welcome Center at their dessert buffet to go find the rest of them. He runs out, sees Ellie coming over a hill. She's screaming, run at him. But nobody runs. Like, she runs into his arms and they swing around. But nobody took off running. Meanwhile, the kids see a raptor in the Welcome Center. So they run out of the dining hall and into the kitchen. Close the door behind them. They think they're safe. He asks Ellie, "You're sure there's only two? The third one's contained." And she says, "Yeah, unless they learn how to open doors." Cue the kids in the kitchen and that raptor just opening that door.
Yeah, he figured it out quick.
Oh yeah, it was not a thing.
So they're running around, and this is kind of where, okay, Timmy's fucked up, and Lex kind of has to take over a little bit of a leadership role, because Timmy's, I guess, going into shock because he's not listening to what she's putting out. Like, she's found a spot for them to go, and she's like, fucking come on, and he's just stuck. He's frozen.
But she does a good job because he gets pinned down at one point and they're coming towards him. And she grabs a bunch of, like, ladles and stuff and starts banging them to get them to come towards her. And then she tries to shut herself in, like, the dumbwaiter situation. The door won't close, but they run into her reflection and kind of knock themselves weary a little bit.
So Timmy takes off and tries to get away. He runs into a freezer, and he ends up actually locking one in the freezer.
Right. So the one's locked in the freezer, they just take off running and leave the other one in the kitchen.
Yeah. So they make it out into, like, the center of the visitor center.
Right. They're reunited with Alan and Ellie.
And they're talking about the whole systems, they need to reboot the system or whatever, but they need to do something.
They need to turn the systems back on. So they're in the control room, but a raptor is trying to come through the door as well. Ellie is trying to find the system on the computer that needs to restart to turn the phones and everything back on.
And the locks.
But she has to run to help Alan hold the door shut. Enter Hacker Lex, who's like, "I can do this. It's a Unix system."
If by hacker you mean she's able to open up Windows File Explorer.
That's not very nice.
I mean, I know it wasn't a Windows system, but she had, like, they were all named. All the
now,
files were named.
The computer program apparently now is taking a lot of flack for it looking so weird and fake and dated.
Yeah.
It was a real 3D browser. It was created by Silicon Graphics and it was called Fusion and was greatly ahead of its time for 1993.
But I think it was doing things that, like, nobody really needed. Like, do you need to roll through a 3D map of your files?
Well, I mean, that's how it was laid out, I don't know. But it reminded me of the movie Hackers, because a lot of their shit was also like that.
I'll probably shit on that one, too.
I fucking loved that movie so much when I was little. It is so awful, but I loved it. It came out in 95. It had, like, the same kind of layout, though.
I'm sure I'll shit on that one at some point.
I'm sure you'll be okay with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
So they're yelling at her that she has to turn on the locks. She finds the right folder. Apparently you think it was easier than that. But she turns the locks so that the raptor can't get in. She turns on the phones. Alan picks up a phone and calls Hammond, was like, "Send the damn helicopters." Meanwhile, he says the kids are fine. Meanwhile, you hear Ellie start screaming that the raptors are breaking through the glass. So they climb up into the drop ceiling and are just die-harding their way through the ceiling.
Yeah. And at one point, Dr. Grant kicks one in the face.
One pops a tile straight up. I think it has Lex on it.
Yeah, I think that's the one he kicks in the face.
So they drop out of the ceiling down onto the T-Rex skeleton statue, whatever, in the main Welcome Center lobby. And the raptors just jump down too, so it all falls apart, just being suspended by cables. But they're all too heavy, so the cables start to fall. Everybody drops down to the ground, including the raptors. They kind of put all their backs to each other, and they are surrounded by the raptors. Enter the savior of the movie, the goddamn T-Rex.
Saves the day. He fucking just basically nukes the first one.
Yeah.
He's gone, and then he fights the other two? No, one's in the freezer.
Yeah, one's in the freezer. He jumps up on his back. He's like wailing it about. But he's at least a distraction long enough for them to run outside where Hammond has just pulled up in a Jeep. They get in the car. Alan is like, after careful consideration, I have decided not to endorse your park. Now, the T-Rex roar was a mixture of a tiger, an alligator, and a baby elephant.
Why the baby elephant?
I think for that
The
sound
little-
you did at the end.
The little from the diaphragm trumpet sound.
That's right.
So as they get to the helicopter, Hammond's just looking out the window. He's fucking defeated.
He's so sad.
Watching his life's work get basically crushed because he knows none of this shit is real.
Alan has to pull him into the helicopter because he's just getting a second glance back at it. He's so sad. In the helicopter, he's just looking at the amber mosquito on his cane. You gotta feel bad for the guy. He fucked up, but you gotta feel bad that, his life's work has just been shat upon. Also, you gotta think he's like Tiger King right now, being like, I am never going to financially recover from this.
This motherfucker. Dude gets his arm bit off, and he's like, fuck. Where's my wallet?
Yeah.
So, that's the end of the movie.
Well,
and I distinctly
Alan,
remember there being in the middle of the credits, the dinosaur awards, but I guess not. It's just...
Alan has the kids, and they're all asleep on him, and Ellie is just watching him like, I knew I was going to break you. He sees the flock of birds fly over. He's like, fucking goddamn dinosaur birds. And then you made me watch the whole credits to hear the roar, and it never happens. But it happened at the end, where he roars, and the banner falls down, when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yeah.
So, the credits roll, which is where you see that Phil Tippett is the dinosaur supervisor. Now, there is a famous meme going around that has been around the internet since memes started being a thing, that has the screenshot of him as the dinosaur supervisor. It was like, you had one job. What the fuck? And they asked him about it in a recent article, and he says, it is beyond silly and a waste of my time to answer. So you gotta love people that can kind of laugh at themselves. What a stick up your ass kind of dude.
Yeah. Seems like he's a little fucked up on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So some fun facts real quick that I didn't get to in the movie. Steven Spielberg bought the rights for this movie just from Michael Crichton telling him about this book he was going to write. It hadn't been published. I don't know if it was finished, but it definitely wasn't published. And he went to the company and was like, we have to buy the rights to this movie right now. And then he went home and started storyboarding his movie before anything even had happened yet. I thought that was crazy. Also, while they were working on ER together, which was apparently supposed to be a movie, and then they were like, this is too good, we got to make it a TV show that runs forever and a million people will watch. So Timmy, the little boy who plays Timmy, actually auditioned for Hook, but he was too young to play any of the Lost Boys, and Spielberg took him aside and told him, don't worry, I have the perfect movie for you this summer. You're all good.
That worked out. Is he in anything else?
His name is Joseph Mazzello, so I can stop calling him that kid, because he is fucking 36 years old. Bohemian Rhapsody, The Pacific, The River Wild, Simon Birch, The Social Network, The Cure, Star Kid, Undrafted, Three Wishes. Yeah, he's in other stuff. G.I. Joe Retaliation, I know how much you love those. So the movie is 2 hours and 7 minutes long, and there is exactly 15 minutes of dinosaurs on screen. It seems like a lot longer in your head, right?
It does.
Like a lot longer. And finally, Steven Spielberg made a back-end deal when he did the movie. So he ended up with $250 million in back-end profits and merchandising, which was more money than any director had ever made until James Cameron made $350 million on Avatar.
Woo!
Love that money. So it was made for a budget of $63 million. In its original theatrical run, it made $914 million.
Ooh, I think they did well on that one.
It was the highest grossing movie until Titanic in 1997. Then, in 2013, they re-released it in theaters in 3D, and combined with the original theatrical run, ended up making $1.03 billion. Just in the box office. So not counting VHS, DVD, streaming, just what they made in the theater. $1 billion fucking dollars.
Love that money.
I already said that. So our rips, Lord Richard Attenborough. Put some respect on his name.
Jesus.
Died in 2014 at the age of 90. Bob Peck, who played Robert
Muldoon,
died in 1999 at the age of 53. Greg Burson, who was the voice of Mr. DNA, who I love, I had to throw him in there, died in 2008 at the age of 59. And Richard Kiley, who they spared no expense to make him the voice that you hear for 2 seconds in the car, also died in 1999 at the age of 76.
So did they ever make Mr. DNA toys?
Oh, I don't know. They should have, though. If they didn't, that would be awesome. So, do you want to take a stab at what this billion with a B dollar movie got on
the tomatometer? Well, it kind of the way you say it makes me think it didn't do as good. I would have originally said the critics would say like 70.
91.
91, damn. Guess they were right.
Yeah. Now, apparently Siskel and Ebert liked the movie but gave it tentative thumbs up because they said it wasn't as good as Jaws or Close Encounter of the Third Kind.
What was that like? The Caesar just kind of wavers
I think
up a little
so,
bit?
yeah. So the audience score.
I'd probably say like 85.
Also a 91. The critics' consensus was that Jurassic Park is a spectacle of special effects and lifelike animatronics, with some of Spielberg's best sequences of sustained awe and sheer terror since Jaws. Now, we didn't really talk about how the dinosaurs look, but I think they look fucking amazing. I think they look like real-ass dinosaurs. Still to this day, I'm watching this in 2020, and I'm not like, all those dinosaurs look like shit. Those dinosaurs look bad fucking ass.
They do. The only time it gets, I wouldn't even say wonky, but like, the only time you can really tell that they've like overlaid things is the herd scene when they're running from the T-Rex. The T-Rex comes in and he's gnawing on the other ones. You can kind of notice some things, but you have to really be looking. Like if you're just watching the movie, you're not like, wow, look at these fucking effects.
Some of them were like puppets. Some of them they just built the legs. Some was just the head. They weren't planning on doing CGI until somebody came out and was like, look what I can do. And then Steven Spielberg was like, scrap it all. We're doing this.
I don't think they scrapped it all.
They didn't scrap it all, but you know like it was a animatronic that cracked the sunroof and the kids weren't ready for it.
And then they had like the animatronic Triceratops.
Right.
And I'm sure they had like models like that when they're feeding the Brachiosaurus.
Alright, it was a combination, but either way, across the board, it looked phenomenal, and still to this day, I think looks great.
Yep.
It's not as detailed as they are in Jurassic World, like you can see, like, characteristics, like super in-close details of the raptors in Jurassic World.
They kind of did that because they, you got Alpha,
they have
Beta,
personalities, yeah. But
Charlie,
I mean,
Delta.
It's definitely holds up, I think.
Yeah.
The dinosaurs. Alright, so you want to do some
Ratchet reviews.
A half a star. Dinosaurs weren't real. Fuck this movie.
Fuck this person.
Do you remember what? It was Hard Knocks. So it was a football player that didn't believe dinosaurs were real, and his teammate took him to a museum where they had the bones and the eggs and all this information. He's like, y'all could affect all of this. This doesn't prove anything to me. I was like, holy fucking hell. Yeah, I can't believe people believe it's not real.
Something was that big. It might not be the exact way we picture it, or is pictured in the books where they kind of guess at their best guesstimate as to what they really look like. But there was something. You don't find skulls and spines that big nowadays, so there's definitely something there.
Now this next person gave it half a star. They made an account to this website in 2018 solely to rate this movie. This movie is their only movie that's been rated on this website, and their name is Jurassic Park Sucks with an X.
Mature.
They made this whole account just for this review. Half a star. Literally, the most boring movie ever. Watch only if you've run out of NyQuil or Advil PM. You'll instantly be cured of your insomnia.
I didn't think it was boring at all.
It is not at all boring, and it has a like. Somebody liked it.
Feel like if you were bored by it, you're definitely not into dinosaurs or any of that shit. So why would you watch the movie?
It's wild, right? I mean, it's not at all boring. 0.5 star. I find it difficult to understand why I should give a damn when some rich white kids whose egotistical grandpa has brought dinosaurs back from extinction to make more money out of it are scared to death when they're face to face with one of those lovely living toys and are about to be crushed in a car. I really don't. It was just horrible to sit through, not in a good way, of course. Now, before you begin, has it was horrible to sit through ever been in a good way? It was horrible to sit through, not in a good way, of course. The fuck?
Oh.
But so yeah, this person's real mad at the rich white kids. They're going through a hard time. Mom's getting divorced from dad. She's going through some shit. She shipped them by themselves off to grandpa on a dinosaur island. Just because you're rich and white don't mean you don't have problems of your own. Shit, they're children.
Hey, Dad, I need you to watch these fucking kids. He's like, I can't really right now. I'm working on this thing with these velociraptors, these T-Rex. Yeah, I didn't really hear what you said, but you're taking these fucking kids.
Yeah.
I feel like that person's just got a lot of pent-up anger at people who they perceive to have a better life than they do, so they're bitter about it. But I feel like if more people were happy for other people doing better, they wouldn't have.
It has 6 likes.
People like to hate on shit.
1.5 star. Okay, but Dr. Grant clearly favorited the girl, which is not only creepy, but unfair to poor Timmy.
I didn't really see that.
Yeah, Dr. Grant fucking hated both of those kids until he was thrust into having to take care of them. And I feel like he gave the kids what they needed. Like, Timmy was into dinosaurs and wasn't as scared and kind of knew what was up.
Yeah.
Like, he knew when it was a meat eater or a Vegosaurus. But Lex didn't. Lex was scared the whole time. So, like, he was just giving both of the kids what they needed.
Yeah,
like,
I feel
at
like
one
he dealt
point,
with each one of them when they needed, like you said.
Like, at one point, when they're walking down to see the Triceratops in the beginning, Lex grabs a hold of his hand because Ellie has basically put her up to it. And he kind of quickly jerks it back away from her. Like, it's not a creepy situation. 1.5 stars. Too scary. To the point that it's wildly disrespectful. Spielberg needs to learn how to please an audience. It made $1 billion.
Who wrote that?
James Travis wrote that October 12th, 2018.
So he knew this fucking movie made it. Where's your $1 billion, James? Where's your $1 billion idea?
Yeah, how many audiences have you pleased?
Oh, you fucking pussy.
Yeah, I mean, I was 8 years old fleeing the theater, and I'm like, this movie isn't scary at all, Jesus Christ.
I called you a pussy for that.
Yeah, I called me a pussy for that.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my last one. So now it's time for yours.
Like what I would give it?
Yeah, what are you rating this movie?
Well, I feel like 3's too low and 5's too high, so let's go with 4.
Why is 5 too high?
I don't know. I feel like 4.
It's a solid 5. It's a 5 if there ever was a 5. It's a fucking 5.
You're biased. It's your favorite movie.
If it was a 10, I'd give it a 10.
A fucking 10!
That's right.
I feel like I'm good. Slide in at a solid 4.
What takes its 1 star away from it? That bitch ass tree?
That bitch ass tree. Nah, I'd say 4.
Alright.
That's good. It's 80%. So you give it a 5.
I give it a 5.
Alright, in a new segment of What the Fuck Moment of the Movie, mine is Triceratops shits. There's no way they could be that fucking big.
I think they moved them into a pile.
They did not. Yeah, the Triceratops shit them out because there's random piles there. There's one on this side, one on that side. They weren't moving that shit. You don't shit half your body weight at once. Like, if I shit half my body weight, you're going to be like, you need to see a fucking doctor. That shit ain't right. Get out.
I think they were just illustrating a point.
No. They were illustrating huge shits is what they were illustrating.
Huge shit. There are huge shits in the second one, in the third one as well, because they lose a phone. A dinosaur eats the phone.
Does somebody have a scat fetish?
The dinosaur eats
Does Spielberg have a scat fetish?
They lose a phone.
Those goddamn fucking elite Hollywoods.
A dinosaur eats a phone in the third one, and they hear it ringing, and they have to go dig through shit to get the phone.
Somebody likes shit. Somebody likes playing in shit.
It's not Laura Dern because kids still are afraid of her.
What's your what the fuck moment of the movie?
I don't know. I wasn't prepared.
My backup was fucking Dennis. Everything that involves Dennis is fucking what the fuck.
Alright, my what the fuck moment of the week is Dr. Wu being a shitty scientist.
That I can understand. Because a lot of people who are very, very smart and they want to accomplish something, they get their mindset on that goal, they don't really care what happens due to what they need to do because of that goal or whatever, because you get people like the fucking terrible scientists for the Nazis, like all the terrible shit that they did. They didn't care about the consequences of it. They had a goal.
Should he not have taken his mistakes in this movie as a learning moment?
Oh, yes.
And carried them with him to later movies that he's still making those mistakes?
So your what the fuck applies to the future.
It applies to everything. It applies to him being so smart and so dumb. Also, how does he keep getting hired?
Because he is able to do that successfully. Like when they cloned Dolly the sheep, they had to try it over and over and over again.
I was looking for a meme. I was not looking for this one, but it's what came up because you were so upset Samuel didn't say the fuck word. The F word in this movie. There's a picture of him sitting at the desk with the cigarette in his hand, all disheveled. Like, I'm tired of these motherfucking dinosaurs on this motherfucking island.
There we go.
That make you feel better?
It does. Maybe he said one, they cut it out.
I don't think so. Well, it's rated. What's it rated?
Probably PG-13.
It is rated PG-13, yeah.
So I think you can have one.
I was trying to find the meme that was like, we all gotta stop being surprised that people keep going back to the island time and time again when, like, we're behaving the way we are in 2020.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find the exact right wording for it.
Like the whole avoid it like the plague, because people don't fucking do that.
Yeah, we gotta change that. Alright, so I give it a 5. You give it a 4 for some reason, even though you can't say in words why.
I don't get mad when you don't rate my favorite movies 5s.
I'm not mad, I'm just saying. It's a dumb rating. Do you know what you're doing next week?
I do not.
Alright. Always prepared.
That's all for Run It Back for Jurassic Park. I'm Jason.
I'm Sarah. Check out our website, runitbackpodcast.com, where you can listen to an episode. You can subscribe on your favorite podcast apps, and there are links to follow us on all of our social media. runitbackpodcast.com. Oh, there's also a blog that accompanies each podcast now. So if there's anything it talks about the things we talked about, anything you may have missed, there's links, there's pictures. It's fun. It's a good time. If you like us, share us with your friends. And if you hate us, share us with your enemies.